Now, the other area that the Albanese government has well and truly overpromised and under-delivered on is on the energy front. For a country that is rich in resources, it is just madness to see how much bills have gone up lately and how much they are expected to continue to rise. Nothing better typifies how we have squandered what should be an energy abundance than the report from the Australian Competition and Consumer Commission that has warned Australia's East Coast gas supplies will be precarious through 2024, with the grid reliant on favourable weather to prevent spikes. You heard that right. Our energy security and affordability now depends on the weather. Joining me now to discuss what this means for you is energy expert Saul Kavonic. Saul, welcome to the program and thanks for sharing your time with me. Saul, explain to me how we have found ourselves in a position where we have to hope that the weather is good to be able to afford to use electricity.
Thanks, Amanda. And let's be clear, the government's not just relying on mild weather next year, they're also relying on our coal generators managing to operate consistently, despite the fact that there's a lot of underinvestment there, and in the renewable rollout actually happening on time. So you actually need all three of these things to happen in order to have this surplus. So the surplus is really a furphy. Really what we've seen here is it's all pain and no gain from Labor's East Coast gas policy. We've seen unprecedented damage to the investment environment for energy and gas, and we've hurt Australia's reputation internationally with our long-standing trading partners like Japan. Now, when a government makes a policy like this, there are obviously trade-offs where you might say we're willing to make those concessions and those trade-offs in order to bring down prices for end users. But the craziness about the situation here is end users are actually still worse off. Now, if you look at the details of this ACCC report, it confirms some of our worst fears. It shows that short-term contracting of gas this year, since Labor introduced its gas price cap, that contracting has fallen off a cliff. It is down over 80% for the data they've got since they introduced the gas price cap. Prices for most end users are still closer to $20 a gigajoule, which is probably higher than it would have been if there'd been no intervention at all. And gas buyers are showing that they are finding it more difficult to secure gas over the next few years as well. So we've taken a big hit to investment environment, our international reputation, but there's been no benefit. In fact, the only thing this policy seems to have achieved is to really give some money away from gas producers and giving it to big retailers like AGL and Origin, who are even stronger, kind of like have a more of an oligopoly position in our gas supply industry. And I think that's, Labor won't admit it in their words, but if you look at their actions, they've essentially admitted they've made a huge mistake on their gas policy, and the latest form, what they're calling the Code of Conduct for gas, actually almost amounts to exempting everybody from their own policy because they know it won't work.
Well, I got to tell you, Saul, we've talked about the madness that is that gas price cap before in the past, but I didn't expect it to cause the outcomes that you and I both predicted so quickly. I thought it might have taken a little bit longer before we had this really quite terrible outcome, both at the investment end and at the consumer price end. How likely do you think it is that we could see more shortfalls over the next 18 months?
Well, look, you don't have to take the word of it from people like myself anymore. The government's saying it in its own report. The supply picture is deteriorating. For example, we're seeing supply declining from Bass Strait, the key supply into the southern states, by about 50 petajoules next year. And the rest of the market's not even making up half of that. And let's be clear, Labor's policy has driven this steeper decline in supply. And at the same time, we've got the report saying that there's gas risks for winter shortages, right? And those risks are rising. We're seeing increased renewables, and coal retirement is resulting in the peak need for gas demand happening in winter for power generation, which coincides when we also got peak demand for gas for what we use in our homes, to keep us warm and cook our food. And these things are now combining. And so that means as we head into winter next year and the year after, the risk of what they're calling temporary or seasonal outages is growing. And, I think I stand by my prediction that we are more likely than not to see significant energy security events, which can include a brownout or a blackout, particularly in winter, ahead of the next election in 2025.
It's going to be really interesting to see. Saul Kavonic, thank you for your time, but also for your commitment in coming to us all the way from Italy.